managing business transformations in major mergers like EDS Mphasis, Mr. Rajat Prakash.
Why telecommunications? And they said that the telecommunication companies are basically setting up the infrastructure for virtual reality.
Involved in securing pivotal contracts such as the multi-million-dollar deal with the Ministry of Home Affairs, an achievement that must have felt like a huge milestone at that time.
So the contract of Ministry of Home Affairs was signed sometime during the late 80s, and it was for one of their agencies under the MHA.
Hello and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, brought to you by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Sunny Pancholi, and today we have the privilege of speaking with a distinguished leader in the world of IT and business transformation. Our guest today, Mr. Rajat Prakash, is a visionary with over 33 years of global experience. From managing business transformations in major mergers like EDS Mphasis and Xerox ATOS, to leading multinational teams and shaping innovative strategies, his career has been a testament to excellence. His leadership has been instrumental in scaling operations and driving key IT strategic partnerships with Fortune 500 companies across diverse industries. So, Mr. Rajat Prakash, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sunny. I think I really appreciate it on an opportunity to speak on FaceTime with Leaders, and a warm welcome.
Great to hear that, sir. So, Mr. Prakash, you have had an extraordinary journey spanning over 3 decades, navigating some of the most dynamic shifts in the IT and business landscape. From starting with just 4 employees at EDS India Best Shore Global Delivery Center to managing thousands across continents, your story is nothing short of inspiring. But before we dive into those remarkable milestones, I would like to ask you, when you look back at the beginning of your career, was there a particular moment or a decision that made you feel this is where it all started? Something that set the course for everything you have achieved so far?
Honestly, actually, I'm not so sure I can say this is where it all started, but I can certainly relate to a few incidents, which I would like to talk about. The first one was when I passed out from IIT Delhi in 1985, and we were asked as freshers to come and present to the senior leadership in Delhi. I was standing at the bus stop and waiting for the bus to come to catch it. It got delayed. And then I realized that every traffic light was not turning green fast enough, reached just about in time. Made the presentation, and the leadership was happy because they were looking at eye contact, they were looking at communication skills, they were looking at how convincing I am in case I'm speaking to a client. But the key thing going on in my mind was, is there any way that we, with the use of IT systems, could provide a seamless journey for someone who's navigating traffic lights? It would have saved a lot of time, money, and in my case, the panic that was setting in at that stage. Needless to say, it's been about 40 years now. I'm still waiting to see if there is something that can be done to make it happen. I'm sure it is happening somewhere, but maybe not at the places where I'm working as of today. The second scenario was when we were going through a discussion, and we were talking about competition. And Boeing said their competition is not any other airline manufacturing company. Their competition was telecommunications. That got me thinking, why telecommunications? And they said that the telecommunication companies are basically setting up the infrastructure for virtual reality. And in case that happens, the need for travel reduces. If the need for travel reduces, the need for aircraft reduces, and Boeing is going to have a big problem. Boeing was looking at IT as one of the enablers to see if it can move on to the next level altogether. So the impact I could see at that point, and I'm talking the mid-80s over there, is something that really got me thinking. And I said, yes, this is the space I'd love to be.
Okay. Mr. Prakash, it's fascinating to hear how those early moments shaped your incredible trajectory.
Thank you. Thanks, Sunny.
All right. So moving ahead, Mr. Prakash, starting your career at ICIM, you were involved in securing pivotal contracts such as the multi-million dollar deal with the Ministry of Home Affairs, an achievement that must have felt like a huge, huge milestone at that time. So reflecting on that period, what did those early successes teach you about the power of building lasting relationships and the core principle of scaling and organization?
So the contract of Ministry of Home Affairs was signed sometime during the late 80s, and it was for one of their agencies under the MHA, which wanted to set up computer systems in different states so that the law enforcement agencies in each state could communicate with each other with a lower turnaround time and see how they can take action and the soonest way possible. 100 plus systems at that point was a big number, and that were in different states. So we really had to struggle when we started off with this kind of requirement coming in. One of the first things that I realized was that in the decision-making process, there are different teams who understand a different language. So the technical team basically wanted to understand the IT language. The end user wanted to understand how easy it is for him or her to be using the system. The decision makers, the senior executives basically want to look at the benefits at a 30,000-foot level. And to speak to them in those languages was very, very important because it is very important to connect to your client. Realizing that I put in a different cap every time I went to them, and I realized that this is really very, very important. You cannot continue and communicate the same language with everyone whom you're speaking to. The second thing that came across was to build up relationships. Everyone is the same. The product could be the same, but the trust that comes in when you start building a relationship is really what carries you through. And when we talked to the Minister of Home Affairs and all the decision makers at that point of time, we were putting forward a case. We not only promised something, but we told them in detail how is it that the whole system would work. Believe me, at the back end, it was a very complex business scenario, which we had to explain in very simple terms and give them the confidence that if they went along with us, we are the ones who could manage it best. There's a lot of work that was done at that point of time. There were a lot of meetings. There were a lot of arguments, let me tell you. I mean, that is one thing that I realized, that everyone has a different point of view, and you really have to get everyone on the same page. So having realized that trust and relationship building was the key to manage a client and to actually get an order was something that was amazing. When we were building the team to execute that order, we realized that everyone should be speaking from the same page. Now, as an IT company, you may not have everything that you want to offer to a client. So it is very much possible that you will bring in other partners. I mean, what you understand now is outsourcing. In mid-80s, we talk them as vendor partners over there. To scout for them, to understand if they are on the same page as you are, to bring them in front of the client, and then to be able to execute it is a humongous task because you have to be on your toes all the time. Everyone is testing you at the same point of time. Everyone is seeing exactly how everything is going to span out over there. So that order, as a matter of fact, I would say was a landmark achievement for our company, as well as a huge learning process for me, which I could leverage throughout my career. It is something that when I look behind the lessons that I learned, the bruises that I have, because you do face failure, you do face a lot of challenge at that point of time, help me navigate my career in a much, much more successful manner.
And it's truly, truly inspiring, Mr. Prakash. It's clear that those early milestones did not just mark success, they laid the foundation for a deeper understanding of what it takes to build relationships and scale an organization.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, Mr. Prakash, growing a team from just 4 people to over 20,000 employees is no small feat, and it must have taken immense vision and strategic leadership. So, as you reflect on that journey, what were some of the key strategies you relied on to navigate that rapid expansion? And how did you overcome the challenges in ensuring that operational excellence remained intact during such a transformative period?
That was a very interesting phase of my career. I joined EDS, and there were four of us who were operating through an office in near place in Delhi. The vision was to bring India on the global map for EDS as a delivery center. And we used to call it Best Shore because that was a trademark of EDS, saying that we have a number of centers, we have a number of options for you, but what we would offer to you would be the best of all these options, thereby giving it the name of Best Shore. When we started off and we started speaking to our clients, they realized that we just have four people on the ground over here. Bringing in the credibility was a huge challenge. Why is it that a client would go ahead with a team that is just being set up and place all their trust in what is it that they're going to offer from that country? So in the back end, we actually went ahead and scouted for vendor partners. We met a number of them, and we wanted to see whose vision aligned with our vision, and where is it that we could see that the client focus was paramount as far as the vendor partner is concerned. Having chosen one, we were invited by one of the banks in Europe to visit them. I went over there, one of the senior executives of the vendor partner company. As we were having discussions, they were not very convinced, and I could see that in their eyes. I mean, this is something that I realized very much earlier on, that when you're actually speaking to a European partner or a company, what they think is what counts. So you know that they are not convinced over there, and I simply asked them the question. I said, I don't think that I can see your convinced. They said, yes, we are not. Here you are one person from the team of four, number one. Here you have someone else who's an unknown entity as far as we are concerned. We are a bank. Why should we go ahead and have trust in this entity and to manage our services for us, and that too in a land which is thousands of miles away? For a moment, I was taken aback. I did not anticipate that question, but at the same time, I said, okay, fine. So just let me give you an example. This company is going to be managing the business backend exactly the same way that EDS would do it from any other location, number one. Number two, I would be the backup. And since they had interviewed me before I came in, they had looked at my credentials, they said, oh, okay, fine. So let's see how it goes. We came back 15 days later. They were here in India, and they wanted to see the facility. They wanted to meet the senior executives. They wanted to meet the whole team. We went down to that location along with this team of four people from that bank, and the presentation started. They went through with a great presentation, and then toward the middle of the presentation, I requested them to stop. And I said, now let me step in and tell you exactly how this thing is going to work, in case you still have some doubts. I explained to them about a vendor partner's processes, not about our own processes, to let them know that we understand what they're doing. I explained to them, in case for any reason there is a problem in the vendor partner's facilities, how do we take over? What is the backup plan? And then explain to them how exactly is it that we are going to be managing their critical operations and critical processes, so that they or the clients don't get any hitch when they are operating their accounts for their bank. That clinched the deal. And once you get the first deal, then it is easy to get the other deals. That was just the starting point, the vendor partners. Then we were going to set up our own facility in India. That was, I'll be honest with you, a bigger challenge. I must have interviewed at least about 500 people in a span of about 15 days, sitting in a hotel room in different locations, sometimes Chennai, there was Bombay, there was Delhi, and so on and so forth over there. The only thing I requested was one of the EDS HR persons to be there with me to guide me, to let me know if there is something that I'm missing out over there. Challenging because we had a set of people who were walking from a different organization. They had a different upbringing. They had different set of values, that they had been following based upon that organization. So their thinking was different. But the underlying consistency is what I was looking at. I realized that everyone is from a different place, everyone is from a different organization. So we need to get them on board. Chose the team very, very carefully, brought them on board. And then we said that now we need to get them into the EDS culture. And that is something that really played a key role because the EDS culture is really what bound them as a team. When you're bound by a certain culture, then you are certainly speaking the same language, and you are certainly able to focus more on the client than something else that you may have done that earlier. We brought in executives from EDS in India. We organized training sessions. We organized a lot of activities so that we could get them ingrained into really what we had to offer. And they were all very happy. They were really, really very happy, the team over there. We had to maintain the operational efficiencies at the same point of time. We had to maintain the same kind of service cards, that we had been offering to them from the other centers. Most important, we had to show them that whether they're getting the services from India, or they're getting the service from US, or they're getting the service from Ireland, or they're getting it from any other location across the world, it is going to be the same standard, and it's going to be an exceeding of service expectations, not to drop it at any point of time. Let me also admit at this point that there were cases when we dropped the ball, but how we got back is really what clinched everything. You do make mistakes. At the same time, you do see exactly what's going wrong over there. But how is it that you come back is really what helps you out. A couple of anecdotes that come to my mind. We set up the team, great team. Everyone was working over there. We had a delegation where I would not do everything. There was a team that was doing it, and then it was further down over there. 15 years down the line, I have left EDS. I'm on a flight, which is about to land in Delhi. And the steward comes up and he says, "Sir, there's a gentleman towards the last row, 30th row or something, and he wants to speak to you." And written on the backside was saying, "I work with you in EDS. I want to meet you." I said, "Okay." I went outside, waited for him, and I realized that the person who's walking up is an unknown in the sense that I don't recognize him at all. He walks up, he says, "I work with you, I'm so and so, and I had a great time. And I don't know if you recognize me." I said, "Honestly, I don't." And he said, "Not at all, no problem at all, sir. But just want to let you know that the culture and the leadership at that point of time is what has helped me shape my career. And I just came to say thank you." And that was it. And he walked away. That is the impact that we brought in at that point of time. Second anecdote is relating to a time I'm sitting in Bangalore, digging into my breakfast, and a person just comes up and says, "Sir, can I take the seat?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Sits. He said, "Do you recognize me?" I said, "No." And he said, "I used to work with you, and based upon my experience of EDS, the culture and leadership, I now present this as a case study to a global company where I'm one of the motivational speakers. And in the last session, I've taken your name. So please expect messages coming to you on LinkedIn." And believe me, there are a lot of messages that are coming to me thereafter. So that is what I thought leadership was all about. That is how I said that, when you're scaling up, when you're down in the downside times, how you react, how do you talk to your teams, how do you bring them up with transparency and accountability is really what makes a lot of difference. So these are just a couple of examples for the challenges that I faced when we're scaling up at that point in time.
Fascinating, Mr. Prakash. It's really fascinating to hear how you manage that incredible growth, and scaling something of that size really does take a visionary leader.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Prakash, moving ahead, having worked across both Indian and global operations, what would you say are the key differences in leadership and operational management when navigating through diverse geographical markets, especially when scaling teams?
So I have had many global leadership opportunities, and one of those where I was heading the Asia Pacific region for one of the global companies. And when I used to meet my leadership team at that point of time, I realized that I'm not getting a pulse of what is happening at the ground level. I'm not able to get to understand what exactly are the pains and what exactly are the drivers for us to take us to the next level. Nothing to do with the leadership. It is just that my experience was telling me that I need to go deeper. I requested the HR team to actually organize a meeting with 15 people who were individual performers, no managers, no leaders. And I said, I just want a room and a piece of paper and a pen, and I want to meet those 15 people. Picked up at random, absolutely at random. They walked in, very hesitant because they're meeting the head of the Asia Pacific region, and they really don't know. They thought that I'm going to quiz them or something. They walk in with their laptops. Some of them have their notepads open. I said, can you please put everything aside? This is a no holds bar chat. Nothing is a tab over here except for your compensation, which I don't want to discuss in a group, and your salary increases. Please don't discuss that. Everything is something we can discuss. They were hesitant. It was a 30-minute meeting, went on for about 45 minutes, and we discussed a lot of things over there. Took down my own notes and told them, I don't know who you are, which team, but I do know that you're a part of our team and you're a very important contributor as far as I'm concerned. Next meeting, I made it for 45 minutes, went on for about 3.5 hours. Thereafter, every meeting that I had would not be for less than 5 hours. Why? Because they had so much to say and so much to share, where they realized that the leadership is interested in them and not only about clients all the time. They're interested in bringing them up, not to talk about clients and not to talk about everything else over there. That they started telling a lot of things which I would have never come to know. Thereafter, my discussions with my leaders was to tell them what is happening on the ground and for them to take action so that we have a team that is much better synergized and energized. Our productivity improved tremendously. Our attrition rate went down. Our teams are performing phenomenally after that because they realized that a lot of focus and attention in terms of their upskilling, in terms of their training plans, in terms of, just to give you an example, in terms of the fact that if they have to reach the office at 12 midnight, and if there is a town hall, they don't have to come 1 hour earlier because I had rescheduled all the town halls to take place during the normal hours. So if I had to take a town hall with the team that is coming in at 12 at night and is up till about 8 in the morning, it would either happen at 7 in the morning or 2 in the night. They will not walk out or they will not spend time coming 1 hour earlier, going back 1 hour late, and so on and so forth over there. And those are very small things, but I think it went a long way. We had an open culture. We had leadership team that were taking decisions, and we had people who were accountable for what they did. It was not to say that I'm the only person who would take a decision or who would actually, take a call on what happens. Very interesting incidents that comes to mind. So here we were as one of the centers, which is being reviewed by a potential client. So they come in and there is a team of about 7, 8 people over there. And here we are about 6 people from our leadership team sitting across the table. The senior most executive actually says, if you don't mind, can I do an exercise? I said, yeah, sure. He took a sheet of paper and he drew a small line on that. And he said, okay, now, but European client, by the way. And he said, now, may I understand what is it that you infer from what I have just done? Or may I understand what you see on this paper? For a moment, we were perplexed. Now, we want the business. We want the client to be happy. But we don't know what is it that he wants. He's drawn just one small line on that piece of paper, and we're all looking at it. We don't know what to say. Everyone came out with their own versions. None of us looked at each other, and someone said that this is the line that is dividing the paper into 2 parts, and someone said These are the first rays of a rising sun. And I'll be honest with you, the responses that came in were pretty interesting. He heard us all. And after that, he said, I'm very happy. I said, okay, I'm happy to know that you're happy, but I'm not sure why is it that you're happy. He said there are three things that I observed. One, you have a very positive team. None of them said that the line is going down. I drew a line, not a straight line, it was a line that was going down from one side to the other side. None of them talked about that. Very positive approach. Two, I did not see any of them looking at you. Normally, when you have a leader sitting over there, the team tends to look at the leader to take a signal from him or her to understand what needs to be done. And you all came out with your own answers over there. Three, I saw that there is a lot of lateral thinking that is going on in your team. It is not a team that is thinking inside the box. It is a team that is thinking outside the box. I think that was a huge accolade for the company that we were working for and the leadership that we had over there. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing over there. The second thing that I realized when you're managing global teams is time management. And when I say timing, I'm talking about different time zones over there. Be respectful. And you have to stretch yourself if you have to be respectful, because you could be starting at 6 in the morning and going on till about 2 in the midnight in case you're respectful and you want to actually go ahead and address every team in their time zones. Understand that every time you get a response, it does not mean that that response actually outlines what that person is thinking. US people are very clear. What they want is what they say, and that is great. People in the Southeast Asian region, and also from where I am, which is India, tend to speak what they want the other person to hear many a times over there. Although now it is changing. Now I see a very, very different set of values coming in where people speak their mind. So when a person is sitting in front of you and he or she is smiling at you, don't think that he or she is in line with your thoughts. Please understand there is something going on over there. And it is your job as a leader to get to the bottom of that and understand what's happening. So diverse cultures, diverse methodology, diverse upbringing, diverse needs are really what define a global team. And you as a leader who's managing a global team needs to understand that and actually address everything individually for that reason. You cannot just put everyone in the same basket and say, okay, this is it. This is how it's going to happen over there. So there are just few lessons that I learned, just few challenges that I faced, and some of the strategies that we're putting over there.
Mr. Prakash, it's truly insightful to hear about how you navigated such varied markets, and it must have taken an incredible amount of adaptability and foresight to successfully lead on such a global scale.
Yes. In hindsight, yes, but at that point of time, you just take it as it comes.
Absolutely, yeah. All right. So moving ahead, Mr. Prakash, and looking ahead, where do you see yourself in the next few years? Are there any specific goals or aspirations you have, particularly when it comes to stepping into boardroom roles or influencing larger strategic decision?
To be honest with you, I would like to bring value to wherever I go. And I do not have a specific position or a role in mind. What I'm looking at is, wherever I go and wherever I actually move on, I want to add value so that people understand that, this is a person sitting over there who will contribute, who will add to what you already have, who is like, we call over there as a multiplication factor. It is not 1 + 1 = 2. It is going to be much, much higher than that. So I want to be that catalyst over there. I want to be someone who can actually help the company achieve far more than what they are achieving today. So that is the contribution that I'm looking at.
Amazing to know your clear vision, Mr. Prakash, and it's remarkable to see how your past accomplishments shape your future goals.
Thank you.
So, discussing about corporate governance as someone who has navigated complex leadership roles and built successful teams across various regions, how do you perceive the role of corporate governance in shaping an organization's long term success?
In today's scenario, where we have been an open economy for quite some time, I think it is very important to underline the fact that we are now going to be operating in a global economy. So it is very important to understand that when you talk on corporate governance, which basically means a system and a set of procedures to guide, run a company, it has to take into account a lot of baseline factors, and that I think are very, very critical. The baseline factors are trust. You need to have trust built in through everything that you do over there. It has to be fairness. It should be appear fair to all. It is not something where we are looking at something, just for him or her. And that is something that I personally have been following for many, many years now, to build up the trust, the fairness, accountability. Everyone should know that he or she is accountable, and it should be defined in very clear terms, not to be left amorphous, not to be left foggy, not for someone else to understand one part of it and a different perspective altogether over there. And transparency. What I say is what I mean. What you say is what you mean. And that, believe me, can lead to a huge, huge, huge multiplying factor over there. So corporate governance is a mandatory. Corporate governance is playing a very, very important role in all the companies. And you will see that in most of the successful companies, that have come up at this point of time, corporate governance has played a key role in making it happen. So I personally think that it's a great thing where corporate governance is now being given the kind of focus and weightage that it may not have been given, that, how should I, in quotes, the way it should have been given earlier. So it was coming in bits and pieces, but now you have a name to it, and now you see this happening, in a much more focused manner.
It's clear that governance is more than just a set of rules for you, Mr. Prakash. It's about building a foundation for trust and long term success.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is the key to a long-term success. You're absolutely right about it.
Great, great. Such valuable perspectives. All right. So, Mr. Prakash, being a part of Directors Institute must have provided valuable insights into corporate governance and leadership. So, could you share your experience with the Institute and how it has shaped your perspective on boardroom dynamics and strategic decision making?
Absolutely. There are a couple of things that came to my mind. I was going through the course that has been put up by the Directors Institute. The first thing was simplicity. Simplicity is a very, very small word, but it's a very powerful word when I talk about simplicity. You'll hear a lot of people who talk through jargons. You'll hear a lot of people who throw big words and buzzwords at you over there, basically confusing you. Simplicity is really what helps in clear communication and bringing about a much smaller turnaround time for anything to happen. Simplicity is really, and when I talk simplicity, I'm talking about communication over here. Simplicity is something that really brings forth, and in your conversation, brings forth all the ideas and everything on the table where everyone is reading from the same page. Second thing is anecdotes. When you talk about anecdotes, then you can relate to it and you can actually put yourself in that position to understand how you would do it or how X or Y has been doing it over there. So the course from Directors Institute I saw was breaking down the complexity which exists in boardrooms in very simple terms and anecdotal. That, I think, is a very, very powerful message that has come in from the course that is being offered at Directors Institute. It is direct, it breaks down everything complex into something that is much more simple for a person to understand, and making it anecdotal, as a matter of fact, can help relate to whatever is happening. So when you are talking about your next movement into the boardroom, your understanding of the dynamics of the boardroom, your understanding of the strategies that are discussed when a board meeting is held, your understanding increases manyfold when you're going through this course. And I'm really grateful for this course being offered by the Directors Institute, because at least in my case, who has operated many levels, I'll be honest, in many levels over there, from individual performer to manager to a global leader, I can relate to a lot of what is being done over there. So it helps me in actually consolidating my experience and my thoughts when I'm moving on to the next level, for a board member. And that I think is a huge contribution that I see that is being made by the course being offered by the Directors Institute.
Thank you for sharing your experience with Directors Institute, Mr. Prakash. And it's fascinating how Directors Institute really shapes leaders to navigate complex boardroom environments.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been my pleasure, actually, to be a part of the team that is taking this course.
Mr. Prakash, thank you for sharing such valuable insights today, and your journey, your approach to leadership, and your perspective on corporate governance have truly been inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
So, as we wrap up today's conversation, we are reminded of the importance of continuous learning, adapting to challenges, and fostering meaningful relationships in business. So, we wish you continued success in your endeavors, Mr. Prakash, and we look forward to seeing how your future contributions will continue to shape the business world.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate for giving me the time to share my experiences and my insights as I move on to the next level.
Thank you once again, Mr. Prakash, and thank you to all our listeners for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and stay connected for more engaging conversations on FaceTime with Leaders. Until next time, stay inspired and keep leading. Thank you so much and have a nice time.